All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 8th installment, or I call it the first bonus installment of our Construction Careers Q&A sessions, presented by the Construction Association in Nova Scotia, the Building Futures for Youth program, and the CAN's Construction Connection program. I want to say a quick thank you to all of our program partners who make it possible for us to go on with this initiative. I want to say thank you as well to everyone who's joining us this afternoon and everyone who's joined any of our previous sessions as well, and for any of the comments and feedback that you've sent along, which has been fantastic. So thank you. A little bit of background. The purpose of these sessions initially and still is to allow students, teachers, career counselors, anyone really, to explore careers in construction from the safety of their own homes or offices during the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition to that, we also found that these sessions are fantastic as far as getting the information and getting the messaging out there, coming directly from the people themselves who work in this industry and who work in these careers. So really, really thrilled to be doing this. Some quick kind of virtual housekeeping. Once again, the format of these sessions is question and answer. The Building Futures for Youth team, we've prepared a number of questions in advance for our guests, but I strongly encourage anyone and everyone watching to please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions that you may have. I'm going to be moderating those as closely as possible, and I'll make sure that no one gets missed and all your questions get asked. I should add as well that this session, as well as all of our previous sessions, are being recorded and are made available for on-demand viewing at our website, which is www.buildingfutures.ca, as well as on the Nova Scotia Department of Education and Early Childhood Development YouTube channel. And again, you can find a link to that on our websites as well. I will add, and I hesitate to because it's one of those things, but we've been very fortunate throughout these sessions not to run into any IT hiccups, but I will absolutely knock on wood. If we do run into a hiccup throughout this session, please stay with us. We'll do everything we can to get back up and running as quickly as we can, and do so obviously as well while respecting Matt and Darlene's time. So finally, I am very excited for today's guests, and I'm excited that we're going to get to learn about a part of the construction industry that I don't know is that well known to many students and teachers out there. So I'll introduce our guests. Our guests today are Matt Brunt and Darlene Symonds, both coming to us from Bird Stairs. Matt is the general manager of construction products, and Darlene is inside sales, industrial hardware products. And I should mention again that Bird Stairs is a longtime CANS member, an active supporter of many of our programs, and specifically a Building Futures for Youth host employer. So having gone through all of that, Matt, Darlene, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So maybe what we'll do is we'll start off with you, Matt, and we'll let you start us off by telling us a little bit about Bird Stairs, what Bird Stairs does, and kind of what role you play in the construction process.
So Bird Stairs, we're a company that started in 1958. We're in our third generation of ownership, and fundamentally what we do is we supply construction products and logistic expertise to the construction industry, to contractors, consultants. We're very diversified. We run in the plumbing and electrical industries, roofing, heavy civil construction, concrete, masonry, you name it. We're typically involved in it in some fashion.
Okay, so you guys seem to touch all parts of the construction industry almost.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So Matt, maybe can you tell us a little bit about your position, what it is that you do for Bird Stairs?
Yeah, so I'm the general manager. The company's kind of divided into two areas, plumbing and electrical and construction products. I'm the general manager for the construction products division. Typically what I'm doing day to day, I'm working with our management team to make sure that we're kind of all pulling in the same direction and trying to achieve our corporate goals. I used to travel a lot. That's been limited recently, but with COVID. But certainly I travel. I go to trade shows. I travel around to our different branches and such. One of my other main responsibilities is to develop relationships with manufacturers and suppliers, of the products that we sell.
Interesting. Darlene, same question to you. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about what your position is, what you do with bird stairs? And I'm told you do all the actual work around bird stairs.
We're hidden behind the scenes for sure. So I work in an office here in Dartmouth, and I'm on the industrial hardware side of business. And what that entails is anything from nuts and bolts, any of the fastener type products, to hand tools, power tools, grinding equipment, safety apparel. So my role is to make sure we have that on the shelf. So I purchase that from the suppliers and manage the inventory, as well as work with our customers, any of the contractors who are looking to buy products or looking for quotes on items, and supply them with that and set up their pricing and so forth.
Okay, very interesting. I'm curious, Darlene, what led you to that position? What was kind of your career path and your education background?
Well, it's a bit interesting. I grew up as a small town country girl. My mom was quite a hands-on lady. She wasn't afraid to tackle any projects, and I think I got that from her. Helping to tear down barns and build fences and whatever needed to be done. Being in the industry as long as I have, we're talking going back over 30 years. So back in those days, girls kind of thought that there was a certain career path we should take. So I finished high school and said, okay, what am I going to do? And took secretarial. Okay. Of course, that's what we did. And so I started out as a receptionist with K&D Industries. Then I went into accounting and did some accounts payable. And then I started working in setting up products in our system and setting up the pricing and costing. And then I went into more inventory management and purchasing. Okay. I did some courses on the purchasing, so I go away on training seminars and work with the computer-based company on improving our systems. From there, I went into counter sales and further into inside sales. So it's been a stepping stone along the way for sure.
Oh, good. It's interesting. We do so much work with students in the high schools and certainly within the community college, and we're always talking about, careers in construction, but, there's so much focus on the trades and those kind of occupations. I really don't think people realize how many, different job opportunities, different career paths there are within the construction industry. And Matt, leading to you now, kind of same question. Can you tell us a little bit about, what led you to where you are now, your career path, as well as your education and background?
Yeah, it was a bit of a long one, and I kind of fell into it backwards a little bit, but I was seasonally employed in the wintertime. And really, if you're seasonally employed in the wintertime, you have a few options of seasonal employment for the summer. And one of those is obviously construction. So I kind of started working for a contractor, just as a laborer, just carrying lumber basically, for a couple of summers. And one summer we didn't have a lot, and we didn't have a lot of work on. So I was working, week on, week off kind of thing. And
sure.
I had a personal contact at Bird Stairs, and I started working there a little bit, just kind of on off weeks in the warehouse, helping them out with certain things. And I did that for a summer and a half, and then they said, well, look, we really would rather have you here full time, or full time for the summer. So I quit my job with the contractor, started working in the warehouse. Then eventually I didn't get laid off for the winter. I was driving truck for Bird Stairs as well. I did counter sales for Bird Stairs. I moved into an outside sales position. I became the sales manager. Then I was the branch manager. And now I'm the general manager for the construction division. And I did a 1-day stint answering the phone, so I could check that off the list as well.
Okay.
So I've been receptionist as well.
How did you do with that?
Not very good. They only let me do it for 1 day, but served its purpose.
Yeah. Did you have to fire yourself?
Yeah, I wouldn't have. I wasn't going to keep me on, that's for sure.
No, that's great. That's a great example of something, I hear quite a bit within the industry, that there is an opportunity if you're willing to get in at, even that bottom entry level and put some time in and work hard, that you have an opportunity to, to grow your career to,
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that for sure. And some of the best people in our company have done that. In fact, a lot of the people in our company have done that.
Yeah, well, excellent. I'm getting our first question coming in on the Q&A function, guys. And that question is, and it's a great question because it's something just I've seen recently within our industry. Parts person, soon to be named parts technician, is a designated trade. Is that at all something that would be connected to the work that you guys do? Darlene or Matt, feel free to take that one.
Darlene, it's okay. I'll just kind of offer my comments on it, and you can certainly add to it. We're very diversified, as I said, and part of what we do and what Darlene does is equipment. Okay. And we currently don't really do a lot as far as parts or repair or that type of thing. But certainly, our competitors in that market that are into parts and repair, that absolutely would be something that would be available. Darlene, you know more about that industry really than I do, but.
We deal quite a bit in the industrial hardware side, where we sell a lot of tools that our customers are looking for, the parts that that have broken down on their equipment, and that's, quite an urgent situation for them. And we actually have recently just run into that, where, they might be missing one piece that's broken on their equipment. So you have to go through the parts breakdown and find those products. But we generally rely on our repair centers for that side. So I would say definitely, if it's a repair center, and we deal with several of them in town here, they would definitely deal with that aspect of training.
Very cool. I got another question coming in for you, Matt, and it's coming in for you specifically. And that question is, do you have any formal education in addition to your experience?
I do, and it was something actually that I did through the Construction Association in partnership with Dalhousie University. It was called the Leadership in Construction and Executive Education, and it was a great program. I honestly don't remember the duration of it. I know it was a lot of Fridays and Saturdays, and but it was very specific to the industry, and it came truthfully at like kind of the perfect time for me in my career to go through that process and go with the other students that I went with were very helpful, and just the program itself, it directed me really well in the position that I was transitioning in at the time.
Excellent. Another question for you, Matt, and again, we're trying to highlight different career opportunities and pathways that are available out there to young people. We've heard a little bit about sales, we've heard about management, we've heard about a couple of different roles so far, but what are some of the other common occupations that would be, related to construction, products, supplies, materials?
Yeah, and this is probably true to a lot of companies. I mean, when you think of construction, you think trades. When you think of construction sales, you would think sales, and that's certainly a big part of it. But we have people that are in logistics, dispatch, purchasing, accounting, marketing, management, as you said, technical support, administrative positions. There's a lot of positions. There's a lot of different avenues that you can either come in or develop as you're here. Sure. And you asked me about education. We have. I did it my way. We have another guy that worked for us. He started in our warehouse, started doing some other things, really in an administrative role, right. But showed an interest in accounting. And he's a young guy, but didn't really have formal education, and he with our help took it upon himself to get his CPA. He did it while he was working for us. We paid for it, but it was a lot of time on his part for sure. But he's now our senior accountant and does a great job, and he's a great fellow and a great employee.
Excellent. Another question for you, Matt, is, when most people hear kind of the general term, hardware, construction materials, they think of places like Kent, Home Depot, Rona, those kind of spots. Can you tell us a little bit about how the work that Bird Stairs does is different from those places?
Yeah, I'll start by kind of listing the similarities, and we both sell construction products, and most people know Kent's and Home Hardware and stuff because you shop there. I shop there for my house, and I buy things there, and Canadian Tire and stuff like that, certainly on the weekends. But what we do and where we differ is that we get into much more specialized products, a lot more geared towards commercial or industrial, although we do residential and stuff as well. We probably have like a 10% or 15% product overlap with lumber and building material places such as those. But we have specialized applications like the expansion joints on the McKay Bridge, which allow the bridge to move. I mean, they're about 18 feet wide. You drive over them all the time. When you drive across them, they're 90 feet long, and that's not something you're going to walk into a building materials place.
No, you're not getting that at Canadian Tire.
No, and we supply those, and it's those type of specialty things, and we do it differently too. We work with specifiers and architects and engineers. We're much more engaged in the process, I think, on a day-to-day basis than the LBMs or the lumber and building material centers.
Okay. Interesting. I got another question coming in on the Q&A, and maybe I'll direct it at you initially here, Darlene. And last week, our session, believe it or not, we were speaking to an estimator, and we learned a little bit about the process of estimating. How often would you be involved in companies being able to price a job? So what's kind of the connection there?
So we actually have a staff member who goes on cans every day and looks at the upcoming jobs, and she looks at the takeoffs and prices up the materials that people are going to need for those projects, and would send those out to those general contractors or whomever. I will also look at that type of product list when it comes to materials, safety equipment or power tools or any of those kinds of things, and I will also quote on those projects that are coming up. But oftentimes, I believe that we're kind of in there working with the architects before those projects have even come into place, and have helped to guide the engineers as to which kind of products will work best in that application. And we actually, Matt, you can probably speak to this a little bit as well. We found out that some of the products that were on site weren't working as well as the contractors wanted, as far as curing blankets and expansion joints. So when Matt and Greer, our sales manager, were at the World of Concrete, they were able to meet up with some new innovative suppliers and came back with suggestions for our contractors, brought back samples, negotiated, and we're now supplying new materials for those guys and speccing those on those projects moving forward. So that's something else we work with. Mm-hmm.
So it sounds to me, and Matt, I'm sure you can shed a little bit of light on this, that you guys are very much not just about obviously supplying the goods and materials. It's very much about building the relationships as well.
It is, yeah, and for sure with the products that we're selling, I mean, it's not, generally speaking, it's not a simple sale. You need to be involved. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of what ifs and how's it going to be applied and what's the temperature going to be. And it's just, endless potential amount of questions. I mean, we're very diversified. There's a lot of industries that we're in within the construction industry. And we have to be engaged, and which makes it way more fun than, just pricing products or working at checkout.
Okay, excellent. So you mentioned the fun. Darlene, I'm going to ask you about the other side of the things. I'm going to ask you what's the hardest part about your job?
There is definitely a lot of multitasking going on in the run of the day. Definitely never a boring moment, I'll say that. You're going from, quoting a customer, sourcing items, finding a solution for them, looking for a floor grinding equipment. So, what kind of equipment is it? What kind of area are they grinding? What kind of power is available to them? What kind of finish do they want on that floor? So, it's not just flipping open a book and saying, here's the one you want. So a lot of research goes on in that. So, that's my day-to-day work. And then, you have your purchasing and your sales and your quotes. So it's a very busy role. Sometimes you come up with tight deadlines. As I said, a person's equipment could break down. So you're rushing to find the product they need or the blade they need for a job that they realized they didn't have the right size, and getting it to the job site at the right time. So meeting those tight timelines is tricky as well, but that makes it fun as well.
Yeah. Do you get any calls at crazy hours of the day?
Not so much myself. That's what I work as a team with the outside sales rep. So he's the one that gets a lot of the crazy time phone calls. Their phone is never off, but I'll do all the background work usually for Steve, and so he takes the heat and I do the back end work and make it happen.
Alain, those late night calls are usually from me.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, that's right. That's what I was getting at. So on the flip side, Darlene, though, that's kind of the most challenging part of your job. What do you like best about your job?
I definitely like the diversity that every day is a new day, and I'm always learning. We meet up with vendors all the time and get training sessions, and I actually learn a lot from our customers as well, right from the contractors themselves. They'll tell you little tips and tricks on how equipment works and what works best, and that's really a lot of fun working with the customers. Excellent.
And connected to that, actually, I just got a really good question coming in on the Q&A, and that question is, and I'll direct it at either of you, but you mentioned being very involved with the manufacturers who are making the products, as well as working with the architects and the designers who need them. Do you guys ever help design or modify a product to kind of help fit customers' needs?
I can speak to that. I mean, yes, it's certainly not a regular occurrence, but there are products on the market that we've kind of worked in conjunction with our contractors and the manufacturers to tweak or change or develop some certain products that are now on the market and available. So yeah.
Excellent, great question. Next question I want to have for you, Matt. It's you've been in the industry for some time now. How has, since the time that you started to now, how has the industry changed, and specifically, how is the work that Bird Stairs does? How has that changed?
So, fundamentally, the work that we do hasn't changed. I mean, we're still selling product. It's still people selling products to people, and people helping people with problems and issues and challenges. But what has changed is, a lot of technological stuff, the way we go about doing that. I mean, we didn't have smartphones, and we got faxes instead of emails. But really what we're doing is still the same thing. Products have changed. There's been new technologies come out. Safety has been a big thing, both, in our operation at like our warehouses and our truck drivers and stuff, but also on job sites. That's obviously been a big change in the industry. But again, really at the end of the day, we're still helping people with their challenges through products and expertise.
Excellent. Similar question along those lines for you, Darlene. And talking about the industry changing and shifting, one area where I believe we've seen certainly a huge shift over the last decade or so is in diversity. Someone like yourself, a very successful woman in the industry, I'm curious what you would say to a young woman watching this, who may be considering a career in the construction industry.
Certainly when I started back in this industry, women were seen more as a behind the scenes, in the office kind of career path.
Okay.
But as time went along, more and more women started entering into the sales force and becoming sales experts in product lines. And it has come a long way for women in the industry. We're seeing much more in those technical positions and respected. At one time, it was nothing for me to stand next to a guy and a contractor come in and ask a question and point it towards the male counterpart as opposed to myself. And my coworker would look at me and go, Dar, what's the answer here? I don't know. And, I would answer that question. However, today, that's not so much the case. They respect us and know that, especially at Brunt, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So if you have an interest at all in any aspect of construction, I think it's a great place to go. Also, the wage disparity we've bridged a big gap. I think that we're much more in line with where the male counterparts are salary-wise as well.
Oh, good. That's excellent to hear. I'm glad to hear that. Another question for you, Matt, and this is an important one, certainly when we're talking about young people and people new to the industry. As someone like yourself who is, you're obviously very much involved in the hiring and the staffing and the operations of what goes on. What are the qualities and skills that you look for most in someone who's coming to work for Brunt Stairs?
The absolute top things really don't relate to technical skills or technical knowledge. It's attitude, hard work, an authentic interest in what you're doing and just trying and asking the questions and wanting to do a good job. And, one of the things that I've always said when we're, talking about a new hire or somebody that we're looking at promoting within the company or something like that is, how much do they care? How much do they care about what they're doing and the company that they're working for? And that's, you can teach anybody the details of a product or how it goes together or how it's installed, any of those things, but it's really hard to teach, that kind of commitment. And that's, I think, true to any industry out there. And I think that's what everybody's looking for is really just people who care about what they're doing.
Yeah, that's great. And Darlene, I'll ask you as well, obviously, as someone who has a team that they work with, what are you looking for in someone who's coming to work with you?
I agree totally with Matt. It's the care factor. Come to work and come into work that 110%, not 100%, 110, and care and, learn. I think the best thing you can do is to listen to what your contractors or coworkers are saying, and you learn so much that way. It's one of the best things you can do. Yeah. And respect.
That's great.
That's another one. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's great. And that's fantastic. It's such a, that's such a common thing that we hear, which is awesome, which is great that it is, it's not that technical piece. It's the soft skills. It's the showing up on time. It's doing those things. And, we're constantly telling young people that, but be able to hear it from two people who've been obviously very successful in the industry is excellent. I got another question coming in on the Q&A. And maybe I'll direct this one at both. I'll give both of you. Actually, you know what? I think you already answered this a little bit for us, Darlene, but I'll target it at you, Matt. What's the part of your job that you're most passionate about?
Absolutely, it's people.
Okay.
it's the people I work with, it's the customers that we have, it's the suppliers that we have. I mean, it's the best part of the job. It's the hardest part of the job. But it really is. I mean, I love, you know, socializing with people and talking with people and it really, you know, you can sell anything, you can build anything, you can do anything, but you always end up dealing with people, and that really, you know, seeing, especially for me in my role, seeing, you know, our staff succeed and doing what they're wanting to do and supporting family. I mean, that's it's a great feeling. It really is.
Excellent. I've got another question. Sorry, Darlene, please.
I was just going to add that they aren't just our customers. We've actually built relationships and friendships with these people, and it's a huge part of what we do, you know. And oftentimes they'll follow you in different places you go because you've built those relationships. So, yeah.
Excellent. I'm getting another question coming in on the Q&A, believe it or not. And, this question is, you mentioned the bridge expansion pieces. What are the biggest, most impressive pieces of equipment that you guys have worked with? And maybe Darlene, I'll go to you first on that.
Well, actually, just today we sold a very large 36-inch concrete saw for cutting sidewalks and so forth. So Steve looked rather small next to it. It was a push behind, but that was kind of a fun thing to see go out the door today. So that's, on my side, that's one thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd love to be able to show some photos and stuff. Those expansion joints were huge. They were actually the largest joints that manufacturer had ever produced. So, you know, each one of them came on 2 tractor trailers. That one was pretty impressive. But we sell, you know, it's interesting. Like, we sell some really small things that go into some really big things, and I think that's been equally impressive. You know. For people who are, I won't go into all the details, but people who are familiar with tilt-up construction and that they lift these massive concrete panels, we sell these tiny little inserts that go in there that they hook onto to pick these 100 and 150,000 pound panels up off the ground. And it's equal parts impressive and scary when you're the guy that supplied them and you're standing there watching them lift these panels, because if one breaks, you're in trouble. But you know, the construction industry, there's lots of very impressive things to be a part of, for sure.
Very cool. Great answers. I got another question coming in on the Q&A as well. And that question is, I know that you're a supporter of building futures for youth, but what other co-op learning opportunities are there for young people at Bird Stairs?
I'll take that. We've worked with Building Futures for Youth. We've done marketing, student co-ops. There's in New Brunswick, where we have offices, there's a college up there that has a big logistics program. So we've had people come in out of that. Some of the people have, you know, come on and done their co-op program and stayed, and other people have gone on to do other things. But yeah, we you know, we like to work with those things. It's good for us. It's good for the students. So we try and engage where and when we can.
Excellent. Follow up to that question, what would be, I guess, the single biggest piece of advice that you would give to a young person, or I should keep saying young person, but anyone really coming and doing, you know, a co-op or a learning experience at Bird Stairs? Pretty
much the same answer as the hire. You know, and for 2 reasons. One, you might get a job out of it. But if you show up and you have a really good attitude, and as Darlene had said earlier, you listen, and you ask questions, and you genuinely want to do a good job and to learn, you know, people are going to help you out. You're going to walk away with a way better experience, even if you don't come out with a job. You know, one of the things, going back to one of the earlier questions, is, you know, how you learn and the education experience. But a huge part of the education experience, and for me, and I know for a lot of our people, is our clients themselves. You know, you go to a job site, these guys know more about a lot of this stuff than we do, and they can you can learn so much by just asking questions and listening to the answer and watching it happen. And I think so for a co-op, you know, there's obviously a goal of potentially getting employment out of it, but you can learn so much by just showing up and being interested, for sure.
Excellent. Darlene, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think Matt nailed that, actually. Yeah.
Excellent.
Thanks, Darlene.
Anytime,
So,
Matt.
I've got 2:40, and again, I want to be very respectful of both Matt and Darlene's time, so I'll put out kind of a last call for anyone on the Q&A to submit any questions you may have. But in the meantime, the last question that I always like to ask at the end of these sessions, and I'll ask both of you, is do you have any, you know, kind of strange, funny stories, or even just something interesting from your time working in the construction industry?
Well, Alan, I gave you my rundown of my history at Bird Stairs, but really, truly, my first job was as a chipmunk at a home show, running around carrying a sign, and tripping over little kids. But so you can get it.
Oh wow, we've got a picture there. Put that right up. Excellent. We'll have to blast that out on our social media.
So there you go.
Welcome, Matt.
That might be the
Thanks
best
again,
one.
Darlene.
Well, what about you, Darlene? Do you have anything from your experience?
Well, I think I've alluded to the fact that my coworkers are like family to me.
Okay.
Great bunch. So early in my career, back in my 20s, the guys I worked with pulled a prank and had someone dressed up as a biker come in and pretend he was a former boyfriend, and they had a big birthday surprise for me where, you know, just trying to embarrass me as much as they could. And yeah, he was a big one on me, big wet one. And yeah, that was that was the funniest thing I can remember back in the day.
That's great. Those are the things that make work awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm not getting any other questions on the Q&A. I will remind anyone, however, that if after the session you have any questions, anything you didn't get to ask, anything you'd like to know, please reach out to me and I can get in touch with Matt or Darlene on your behalf and get that information. So I want to thank you, Matt and Darlene, and of course Bird Stairs as well, for making the time for us this afternoon. I certainly learned quite a bit about what you guys do, and it's as always, it's great to see the passion that comes out in people when they're talking about their occupations.
Well, thanks for having us, Alan. It was a great opportunity. Appreciate it.
Excellent.
Thanks very much.
Oh, you're very much, Darlene. And I will add just one more thing for everyone watching. Please keep an eye out for next week. Believe it or not, we're going to be doing a second bonus session where I'm going to be chatting with Daryl Jarrett from Dare Masonry. And we're going to be learning a little bit about the masonry trade. So please keep an eye out for that. And thank you again to Matt and Darlene and everyone who tuned in. And stay safe, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Darlene.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Yeah.